What is going on, you guys? This is the Cubone here, and as always, as you can clearly see, I am wearing teal and black like a Duval cat because I am here to talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars. In this video, I'm going to be discussing about the upcoming free agents for the Jacksonville Jaguars, players who have expiring contracts, as well as guys that could potentially be released to save up some money in the salary cap, all that kind of stuff. And basically, I'm going to be asking the question, who should stay and who should go? I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on each of the players I have on this whiteboard. There's 21 players in total. I'm going to try to go quick and fast. I don't want to waste any of your guys' time. So without further ado, let's begin. So the first category of players that I have on my whiteboard are the starters. These are the guys that will quite literally were starters at their respective positions. I only have 3 written down in this particular spot, which I think is a good thing for the Jaguars, you know, trying to rebuild and reload this team for the next upcoming season. That they only have a small amount of starters that are going to be upcoming free agents. With that being said, though, Jacksonville does not have a whole lot of cap space to work with. So Jawaan Taylor, the starting right tackle, that's the big name on this team that's going to be hitting the free agent market. I don't think this is any kind of a debate. This is someone who most definitely needs to be re-signed as a Jaguar. He was one of their best, more consistent offensive linemen. Has started every single game for the Jaguars since he was drafted here in 2019 at right tackle. If they do not re-sign Jawaan Taylor, though, which is a possibility, I'm not going to rule that out, but if they don't re-sign Jawaan Taylor, I do feel confident that Walker Little can take over the right tackle duties for the team. That's what he was drafted for originally. He was supposed to be the replacement for Jawaan Taylor, but then Jawaan Taylor decided to be a pretty damn good right tackle for us last season. So that kind of begs the question, should they re-sign him, should they let him go? Well, I think they need to keep Jawaan Taylor. Evan Ingram, the starting tight end for the Jaguars, he only signed a 1-year deal with the team last offseason, but this is, to me, most definitely someone that they should re-sign because, for one, I feel like continuity for Trevor Lawrence is very key, not just in the play calling, but in terms of the people he's throwing the football to. And Evan Ingram had a career year last year in terms of receptions and receiving yards. I think this is someone who I think did a lot better job at run blocking and did a much better job of not dropping passes thrown to him. That was one of his big critiques in New York. He also stayed healthy for the entire season. That was another thing that was a big critique of his in New York. So most definitely, Evan Ingram is someone who I think they should re-sign. The only issue I have is that, unlike Jawaan Taylor, where there is someone who they can have, you know, step up and be the new starting right tackle, all the other tight ends outside of one, all the other starting caliber tight ends that the Jaguars have on their roster, they're also going to be free agents in this upcoming offseason. So I think Evan Ingram takes a bit more priority, in my opinion, over Jawaan Taylor. But regardless, like I said, they should re-sign Evan Ingram. Next up is place kicker Riley Patterson. This is another guy who I would like to see the Jaguars re-sign. Now, the only issue I have with Riley Patterson is that he doesn't have a strong leg necessarily. Like, if he have to make a 60, 59-yard field goal, like that kind of range, I don't have confidence that Riley Patterson's going to make it. But he was still 30 of 35 with his field goal attempts. I still felt confident that he was going to make most of his field goals when they were trotting him out onto the field, and brought some much needed stability at that position. If you guys remember last year, there were signing guys off the streets left and right, trying to figure out who the hell was going to be the new kicker for the Jaguars, trying to replace Josh Lambo. And they were lucky and fortunate that they were able to claim Riley Patterson off of waivers from Detroit last year. So he's definitely someone who I would actually want to bring back for the Jaguars as their new kicker. Moving on now to the next category, which is the role players. These are guys that aren't necessarily, I consider, starters, but still played a significant amount of time on the field for the Jaguars, whether it was on special teams or, as I listed as the category title, they were a role player, maybe a situational pass rusher, a guy that was a red zone target for the offense, all that kind of stuff. And the first guy I have written down for the role players is wide receiver Marvin Jones Jr. I'll be honest, he's someone who I think is expendable. The main reason why I think Marvin Jones Jr. can be let go is because they are bringing in Calvin Ridley. And if they even don't get Calvin Ridley, I would rather see them draft someone in this upcoming draft that can at least be that replacement for Marvin Jones Jr. in this offense. Dwan Smoot and Arden Key, I'll cover these guys together at the same time because they're kind of I consider like the same kind of player. They're situational pass rushers that are rotational kind of guys. Dwan Smoot, no, because he tore his Achilles at the end of the season, which seems very mean of me to say that's the reason. But Arden Key, yes, bring back Arden Key. If they bring back either of these guys or both of these guys, I'll be satisfied either way. I want at least one of them to come back. One of the issues for the Jacksonville Jaguars is getting after the quarterback at a consistent basis. And these two guys, weirdly enough, even though they weren't the starters, they were one of their better pass rushers this last season. Arden Key, it's a similar situation with Evan Ingram. He only signed a one-year deal, so hopefully they'll be able to re-sign him to an extension. Dwan Smoot, though, is someone who's been with the Jaguars for a significant amount of time now. And before he tore his Achilles, was actually leading the team in sacks. So that's, I guess, one reason why you would want to bring him back because of that reason alone. But other than that, like I said, either bring back one of them or bring back both of them. You can't let both of them hit the free agent market, in my opinion. Tight end Chris Manhertz. This was the blocking tight end for the team. I'll keep this quick and simple. No, do not re-sign him. They have someone on the roster in Luke Farrell. He's the only tight end that is still signed onto the roster that won't be a free agent. But Luke Farrell is a blocking tight end, in my opinion. He can easily replace Chris Manhertz in that role. Andrew Wingard, safety depth is a bit of a concern for me, so I would want to see him brought back. He's also a fan favorite player. He's the one who coined the term "it was always the Jags." He was the one who came out and said that he would die for Doug Peterson. He's such a likable guy. Definitely want to bring him back. Cornerback Trey Herndon. So will the marker work? There we go. Yes, bring back Trey Herndon. Now, I would still look to find another guy to be the starting corner at the nickel position. But I would still want to bring back Trey Herndon as an insurance policy if one of the starters goes down. He can play outside. He can play the slot. The only issue I have with Trey Herndon is that he's just not fast enough. Not up here, but like physically, he's just not fast enough. That's the problem for me with Trey Herndon. And then JaMychal Hasty, he's the, basically he took over the second running back duties after they traded away James Robinson, and Travis Etienne took over the starting role. You can always find another running back, in my opinion. I believe this upcoming draft class is very talented at that position. So if you wanted to upgrade the running back position or add some more depth, you can do that through the draft. And also don't want to discredit the fact that they also have Snoop Connor on the roster, who is someone who I really like. So that's another reason why you could probably let JaMychal Hasty go. Next up is the backups. I will keep this quick and easy. I can cross these guys out super fast. Dan Arnold, no. The only reason you would want, in my opinion, to re-sign Dan Arnold is if they can't get to a deal with Evan Ingram. I do think Dan Arnold's a pretty solid tight end, but if you re-sign Evan Ingram, you can let Dan Arnold go. This is also another draft class, like I mentioned with running backs. This draft class is apparently very talented at the tight end position, so if they can't get any of these guys to re-sign, they can always find potentially someone in the draft. CJ Beathard, no. You can move on from CJ Beathard. I'm not the biggest fan of him. I think there are better backup quarterbacks that will be available this free agency period, so Definitely you can move on with from Beathard. Corey Peters, no. I actually really like Devon Hamilton. I think he's done a very good job as the nose tackle. That's kind of what Corey Peters was brought in midseason to be, sort of that big-bodied defensive lineman in the middle of the defense to help stop Derrick Henry. But you can find those guys elsewhere at probably a cheaper, younger price. Adam Gotsis, no. This was someone who actually was a much prominent player in 2021, didn't really see the field at all in 2022. Blake Hance, you can move on from Blake Hance. Brandon Murphy, you can move on from Brandon Murphy. These guys were offensive tackles that they had on the roster. Again, they never saw the field. They're not really worth mentioning too much, in my opinion. So those are the backups. You see how quick I went with the backups, because it's just like, no, like these guys aren't worth re-signing. You can let them go. Now for the last category, this is called cap casualties. These are the players that are on the roster that if they want to free up some cap space, which is what they're going to have to do, they're pretty tight on cap space at the moment. These are the kind of players that I have written down that are usually brought up when talking about freeing up cap space with the Jacksonville Jaguars. The first one I have is cornerback Shaq Griffin. No, do not bring back Shaq Griffin. God forbid. Do not bring back Shaq Griffin. There's no point. Not only was he not really that good on the field, he's the one where if you release him, you're going to free up the most cap space among all the players. So he's dead weight. It's time for him to go. Roy Robertson Harris, I'm going to be honest, times are hard here in Jacksonville where they need to free up some cap space really bad. Roy Robertson Harris, I think he's going to be the casualty, if you will, of the cap casualties. Really solid player, played really well down the stretch, but again, who would you rather have as a Jaguars fan? Would you rather have Roy Robertson Harris or Jawan Taylor? Would you rather have Roy Robertson Harris or Evan Ingram? I would take those guys over Roy Robertson Harris any day of the week. Safety Rayshawn Jenkins. This is, yes, I would say, let me try that again. Ugh, marker's not working on me now, is it? Oh, don't you fall down, whiteboard. Yeah, I'm gonna get it. There we go. Yes, that is. Okay, so after fighting the whiteboard and my marker to put the check mark on the board, yes, I definitely want to keep Rayshawn Jenkins on this team. I think he was one of the key pieces of why this team went on that 5-game winning streak towards the end of the season. He had about 3 interceptions, a couple forced fumbles. He was one of the players on the team that had double-digit passes defense, which, by the way, if I'm not mistaken, Jacksonville led the league in passes defense this last season. That was one of their bright spots on the defense. So definitely I want to keep Rayshawn Jenkins for the upcoming season. Jamal Agnew, yes sirree, I want to keep Jamal Agnew. People will say that they can let him go and free up cap space and all that, but the question I have to those people is, okay, you let go of Jamal Agnew. Who's going to be returning kicks? Who's going to be returning punts? And on top of that, can you even find someone realistically in the NFL that's a bigger threat in the return game than Jamal Agnew right now? I don't think so. And I also mentioned this in a previous video. When you kick off to Jamal Agnew, he will put the fear of God in you because he has the ability to return that to the house for a touchdown. The final player I have written down is former first-round pick, outside linebacker Caleb Von Chason. It's finally time to cut ties with this man. Get him out. I'm tired of talking about Caleb Von Chason. Stupid whiteboard, hold still. What more can I say about Caleb Von Chason? He has had 3 sacks in his 3 years in Jacksonville. And yes, he's only that's an average of 1 sack a year. Terrible. And you wonder why they can't get after the quarterback on a consistent basis. It's because draft busts like him. So all in all, that's all the players who I think the Jaguars should try to re-sign and who they should let go. Let me know in the comment section down below of what you guys think the Jaguars should re-sign. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.